This is a blank balsa layer body I've carved, just rushing ahead a bit here. Last time we made this through wire, and I'm going to show you this time how to make these little weights and to get them into the blank basically. We're not going to carve the outside yet, we're going to actually do the inside first, and we need to do that because it's easier before we've carved the outside to carve the inside. And then what should happen is the weights and the through wire should fit in the centre, and we can glue that together. So once again, I've downloaded the second worksheet, and I'm just going to check a couple of measurements just to see if my printer's scaled them or whether they've come out correctly. 16mm, yeah, that's great. 8mm, spot on. So now I'm going to sort out these weights which are going to go in the centre of the layer, and what I'm using is brass rod. This is just bought from a local DIY store. The great thing about brass is I don't have to go and melt it and shape it like lead, and it's not particularly poisonous. So I'm just going to make a little jig to cut this to size. So to cut the brass bar to length, I'm just going to make something to hold it with, a jig, and what I'm going to use is the back of my jig that I had earlier, and my little scrap piece of MDF. What I'm going to make is what's known as a V-block. I'm just basically going to score with a hacksaw vertically until I've got some grip. There we go. And then make another parallel line about the same width as the bar, which is about 6mm. Don't have to be 100% accurate. And score again. Then what I'm going to do is turn the blade to an angle. Now I've got some grip, and saw at about 45 degrees. Let's do it to the side. And there, it's cut a rough V, and now I can just put my pipe, my tube in, and when I clamp it, it's going to hold it there. Let's just get my paper back. Let's just mark off the distance I want to cut with a marker, 16mm. Put that there, put my block on. This is just an ordinary clamp. There we go. So there's my first one. I'll put that back here. There. Approximately. I'll do the second one. So once you've done your first one, cut your second one, which is half the size. The dimensions on there is 8, and that should weigh to give you 4 gram and 2 gram basically. Now what we're going to do is see if we can cut the balsa and install them before we carve the wood. I'll show you why that's easier. So now I'm really going to start messing around with some wood as opposed to metal. Probably a bit of both. The second drawing A2B gives you some measurements, 22mm by 93. this layer is in two parts, and the wood that I'm using is this is balsa wood, and it's 6.5mm or quarter size. You can see there, it gives you both on the label. And what I need is two pieces, 22mm by 93. So I'm going to rip the balsa wood down, and what I'm going to use is a marking gauge, or a mortise gauge. As this has got 2 points, I suppose it's a mortise gauge. I'm going to get that approximately to 22mm and just score down the length of the sheet. Turn it over, smooth that centre. And do the same on the other side, and then just snap it. So there I've got approximately the width, 22mm. I just need to cut it down to size, and to cut it what I'm using is this, which is you can see a cheap knife. What you should be able to do with these knives, if you're going to use them for balsa, is to actually shave. You can see there it's taking off some hair. If it's not that sharp, then it's really going to cause you problems when you're trying to carve with it or cut with it. What it's going to do is catch the fibres and tear at them. Now, I can't use this blade because normally these are supplied with some oil on them. The difficulty with oil is it doesn't really mix with the other chemicals I'm going to add, epoxy resin, paints. It'll repel them and cause blotching or just bits which don't adhere. So what I need to do is take this away and actually wash it with some soapy water or rub it with some IPA. If you have a change in your blade, which you can see these blades here, these are actually covered in oil. If I get that on the wood, I'm just basically going to destroy the work before I've even begun. So I've been away and I've washed my blade, and now what I'm going to do is just mark my piece of wood. And then just cut it. Let's just move that out of the way. The reason I use these thin knives is because they don't wedge too much. If I was using a thicker blade, it would start to wedge the balsa apart, and as it was pushing it, put the fibres basically under tension, and a lot of them snap at fray. So that's a pretty clean cut. We do another one the same size. There, another pretty clean cut. So these two weights I've got are going to fit in these positions here. 1, 2, so I need to carve a space for them to go into. So I'm going to take my two pieces and just lay them over the drawing. And what I'm using here is just a fine line marker, and I'm going to mark these points. And I'm just touching the marker against the wood. It should just soak up some of the fluid. There we go. Let's do the other side, and obviously because it's two parts of a book, I'm going to have to turn this over the other way. And do these just on the bottom. There we go. And when I put them together, they should line up like that. Okay, so I'm going to cut, and I'm just going to mark up from these, just checking I'm coming up from the right lines. I've done this before, I've completely carved the wrong bits. Okay, and what I'm going to do is get my marking gauge, and I'm going to mark the width of the rod onto these two pins. There we go. And then I need 1 millimetre up. 2 millimeters. You can see the dimension there given. This is the weight is 2 millimeter up from the bottom. I'll do this with the verniers. There we go. And what I'm going to do is just mark these points. So there's the first bit. I don't know whether you can see that actually, it's not the greatest, maybe I'll do it that way. Let's do the other side. So there, both sides of the book. So where I've just made them two tram lines, I'm going to put a line in the middle, and this is really going to be to cut. So I'll just adjust that. Rather than a mark, it's actually I'm going to be cutting. Yeah. So I'm going to go down about 3 mil, which is obviously half the depth of the brass rod. Let's just do that both sides. There we go. And then I can start making the other cuts to remove the centre. Just tidy that up a bit. This is a V is what I'm forming, so I'm making the ends of the V. I just cutting down, just gentle pressure. Just tidy that up where it's not reached the end. Turn around, do the other side. And then I should be able to remove the V, basically. I'm cutting there at an angle, you can see, about 45 degrees roughly. If they're a bit stubborn coming out, it's normally the ends that are caught somewhere, either at the bottom or then the other side. Let's do the other one. Now there's my two parts. And what I'm going to do is press my weights in to take up the shape. So it's important, well, these are going to be pushed in, it's important just to make sure there's nothing on the underneath, because this is obviously the outside, it's going to be the outside of the layer, and if you press, there's a chance that whatever's on the outside is going to be pressed into it and be quite difficult to remove. So I'm taking my scrap piece of MDF and I'm going to push this in to the V just a little over halfway, because it'll spring back. Let's do the other one. Again, just gently press that in, a little over halfway. Let's do the other side. It should now, I'll put this together, there we go. You can see it's completely concealed within the weight. The weight's completely concealed within the layer. Anyway, so it's just really to do the wire. No. So to get the wire into the layer, what I'm actually going to do is glue it to the drawer in the wire. Just the spot of super glue. Just give that a minute to sell. So once that's set, I'm going to take the one side, lay it over, and just press the shape in. Again, it's important to just check that there's nothing that's going to press on the other side and leave a mark. And let's just break that off. There we go, put that into that shape. And I'm going to put the other piece on top and transfer to the other piece. And then push that into the other side equally, so it sits between the two. And that should be it there. Let me get my two weights. And what should happen is it should be, you can see that it's closed on the ends there and on the ends, and now it's just a case of carving externally.